always been a good person. I haven't always been a person who does good things. I haven't always done what's right. There was a time in my life when I didn't live my life for God. I love God and I was a Christian because I grew up in the church and I accepted Christ at a young age, but I didn't really know what that meant. So I did not live my life for God. I lived my life for me. And it was all about me and what I want and how I feel. And really, I was selfish. And because of all that, I hurt other people. I did things that hurt people. I said things that hurt people. And as I look back, I realized that was wrong. It's easy to realize that was wrong. On the flip side, when I look back, I remember times that people said things and did things to hurt me. And of course, when they hurt me, I hurt them back. When they do me wrong, I do them wrong. And I look back at that, and it's a little harder to realize that that was wrong. In fact, it's easy to feel justified for hurting them back. It's easy to feel justified because I was defending myself. It's her fault. She shouldn't have. And then I wouldn't have. And it's easy to feel like I was right for doing what I did. So that's what I did. I felt like I was right. I didn't always like what I did, but I felt like it had to be done. And I was like, well, I guess that's just how life is. Sometimes you got to do what's wrong to feel right. Sometimes you got to do what's bad to feel good. Because what it all boils down to is that people just want to have a good life. I realize that most of the time when people do bad things or hurtful things, it's not because they're an evil person. Not necessarily. Most of the time, people are just thinking about themselves. And they just don't want to feel like they're losing in life. People just want to win in whatever they're doing. So when I look back on the bad things and the hurtful things that I've done, I knew that I didn't do it just to be evil. But by the grace of God, He changed me. He changed my heart, and that made me change my life. And now I live my life for God. And as I live my life for God and His purpose and His plan for my life, I'm not as selfish as I was. I realized that it's not all about me. I've learned to consider others. I've learned to do good to others and not purposefully harm them in any way and treat people right regardless of how I feel. I've learned to be generous in giving to others. I've learned to just do good and do right. And check this out. I've also learned that, and this is only by the grace of God that I've learned this, but I've learned to be good to people and do good to people who are not being good to me. While I'm being treated unfairly, while I'm being disrespected, I've learned to keep doing the right thing. Now it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy to do the right thing regardless of how you're treated, but it's something that God has graced me to do. Now as you're sitting here listening to me right now, maybe you can identify with what I'm saying. Maybe you have learned to do good and to be good to people who are not so good to you. And while you're being treated poorly, and while you're not being treated with respect, love, and respect by someone who you thought was supposed to treat you as such. And while you're being ignored and you still try to keep doing what's right. But the problem is you're tired. You're tired of continually trying to do the right thing and be a good person. And do the right thing and be a good Christian. And do the right thing and be a good spouse. And do the right thing and be a good employee. Trying to be a good parent. Or even trying to do the right thing and be a good co-parent. And trying to be cooperative with the other parent. And it seems like it ain't making no difference. It seems like the other person is doing whatever they want to do and getting away with it. And you feel like, what's the point? It seems like I ain't getting nowhere with doing the right thing. I give love, but I get no love. I show respect, but I get no respect. I'm always helping them with their stuff, but I get no help. I'm always supportive of everything that they want to do, but when it comes to me and something that I want to do, I get no support. And I'm just tired of doing the right thing because it's not working. And you just want to say, man, forget this. I'm trying to do good. I'm trying to do right, but it feels like it don't even matter. There's no reward in this. I can't win for losing. Is that the way you feel? Because you thought that if you just treat people right and do the right thing, that everything will be peaceful. But that hasn't been the case. Oh, you thought that now since you're a little more mature and now since you got that crazy stuff out of your system that everybody will just take notice and realize all the good things that you're doing. You thought that they would recognize you for all that you're doing and you're doing the right things and saying all the right things and they should just greet you with open arms. But instead, all you get is, and you just feel like you're losing. And now you're ready to quit and throw in the towel because it feels like it ain't worth it. Or maybe it is worth it. Let's look at something in 1 Peter 3:13 and 14. 1 Peter 3:13 says, "Now, who will want to harm you if you are eager to do good?" That's what we're all thinking, right? Who in the world will want to harm you if you're trying to do good? Usually, if you're doing something good, stuff's just supposed to fall in place. People are just supposed to fall in line and recognize. But for whatever reason, it don't always work like that. Verse 14, "But even if you suffer for doing what is right, God will reward you for it. So don't worry or be afraid of their threats." That's a hard one, bro. See, Peter is writing this to encourage the Christians to maintain hope while suffering. The people that he's talking to have been facing significant hardships as a result of social and governmental opposition to their faith. And those people are living in a rough social environment that is hostile towards believers. However, Peter is trying to get them to maintain hope in the midst of hostility, in the midst of suffering. This is all about how to respond when you're suffering from doing what's right. And Peter is saying that generally speaking, people should not want to harm you if you're trying to do good, most of the time. But every now and then, for some of us, it doesn't matter how good you are to a person, no matter how much you do right by a person, they still hurt you. And Peter says, when that happens, don't worry about it, because God will reward you for doing what's right. What Peter is saying here is counterintuitive to natural human desire to avoid difficulty. It goes against our natural desires. When people hurt me, I don't want to just take it and keep doing the right thing, especially when I'm trying to do what's right. I'm trying to do good. Honestly, when that happens, I don't want to keep doing the right thing. You hurt me, I want to hurt you back. I don't want to lose like that. But in the end, that type of attitude keeps you in the crazy cycle where there's no peace and it just hurts you in the long run because it keeps you from maturing and building your character. And the character that you should be building is the character of Christ. Let this mind be in you, the same that was which also in Christ Jesus. This is taking on the character and the nature of Christ. Now this verse here in 1 Peter 3 is all about maintaining hope in the midst of suffering. Why do you want to maintain hope in the midst of suffering? Because Jesus himself suffered. And as Christians, one of the ways that we partner with Christ is to identify with his sufferings. You should imitate Jesus by enduring unfair suffering with grace. Even when you're being persecuted, even when you're being mocked and mistreated, you have to imitate Jesus by going through it with grace and strength. And let me tell you something. Strength has nothing to do with saying something back to a person or doing something back to them. Strength has nothing to do with retaliation. But real strength is being able to be misunderstood and still doing the right thing. That's real strength. And you're not losing because when you can maintain yourself and still do what's right, you're still winning. So what this is really saying is that because Christ suffered and because God can be trusted to make all things right, you can maintain your faith in Jesus. After Christ suffered, God the Father made it right and he resurrected him. And that's what he'll do for you. So you can go through your suffering knowing that God will make it right. You can go through your suffering knowing, not feeling like that you're losing, but knowing that you're still winning. We've been talking about how to handle it when our good is returned with bad. how to handle it when our right is returned with wrong. When people harm us while we're trying to do good. When we suffer trying to do what's right. How we choose to respond is going to determine how much faith we have in Christ. And I just want to leave you with one last thing to remember. If you keep reading further down in 1 Peter 3, it says that when you're able to respond to how people are treating you in the right way, it allows you to keep your conscience clear. Because if you cuss somebody out or get revenge, or you sit there and go tit for tat with somebody, you can't keep your conscience clear. But when you keep your conscience clear, then when people speak against you, one day they will be ashamed when they see what a good life you live because you follow Christ and you take on his character. You see, when we prove them wrong in their opinions about us, it will make them ashamed for speaking against us. And that's when you realize that you never lost. You're still winning.